Hey everyone, James Labrie from Dream Theater, and you're listening to Hyde on Rock 105.
Rock 105, everything that rocks. Pull Me Under from Dream Theater right there by request. And I love it when you request Dream Theater, one of my favorite bands and definitely my favorite singer ever right there. James Labrie, the singer of Dream Theater. I don't care if it's Dream Theater, I don't care if it's solo or guest things he's done. I've got them all. Love listening to anything this man sings. And the cool thing is right now, if I want to hear James Labrie, all I got to do is talk into the phone. James, how's it going?
Going great. Thank you very much for that endorsement, man.
I meant every word. I'm a huge Dream Theater fan, huge James Labrie fan. Let me tell you, you should spend a lot of time over at jameslabrie.com. So I'm excited to be talking to you today and talking about this Distance Over Time tour.
Oh, man, that's awesome, man. I can't thank you enough. Yeah, we've had a great ride, you know, like we're still going strong in that, but we've been fortunate enough to be doing this for as long as we have, and we're still having still going out there and still just, you know, totally giving it every night, and it's been amazing. It really has been.
I tell people I'm a 20-year fan of Dream Theater because I came on board. I had friends who were very into the band and like, you got to check this band out. You got to check this band out. And I really hadn't. And then they were hyping up Scenes from a Memory for me. They're like, dude, this album, this is the concept album. This is the one that's going to get you. So I went sight unseen, band unheard, bought it the day of release. And on this Distance Over Time tour, we're celebrating 20 years of Scenes from a Memory. And I was blown away, went and bought the back catalog at that point. Been a first day buyer ever since. So as we're talking about this Distance Over Time tour, which of course hits Louisville this Thursday at the Louisville Palace Theater and Half Theater in Cincinnati, November 6th. You can get tickets and information at dreamtheater.net. 20 years of Scenes from Memory. Let me ask you, what did the album mean to you and the band at the time? And what does it mean to you today looking back at it?
Well, you know, when we went into this album, first of all, we had been talking for quite some time. It was our first conceptual album. I mean, it was just a natural progression for somebody like Dream Theater to want to put it out there as in a conceptual piece. And so we were pretty psyched. We were very, very excited. Like I said, we had been talking about it for some time. And finally, the opportunity had presented itself that this was the time. We'd come off of Falling Into Infinity, and we'd done that world tour and everything. And it was just kind of gone through some personnel changes at the label and management and that. So we, in a more intimate space of Dream Theater, we were going through some serious transformations and transitions as far as the people that are on the periphery. So it was to get us to the point where we were going into the studio for Scenes from a Memory. We had gone through a lot emotionally. And I think that kind of was the gasoline on the fire for us to say to the label, you need to let us do this album. You need to leave us alone. We're going to go into the studio, and you're going to hear it when it's done. And fortunately for us, they were all about that. They were all in agreement. So going in, we pretty much knew where we wanted to go with it as far as the lyrical conception, you know, reincarnation and that. And musically, it was the first album that we did with Jordan Rudess. So he had just come into the band, so we were pretty psyched with that. And what better man to have coming into that kind of a piece that is that kind of a musician that Jordan is. It was just a perfect fit. And then the album came out the way it did. But we could tell as we were in Bear Track, writing it and recording it, that we were onto something we thought was really going to resonate with our fans. And it still does today, doing it live. It's pretty amazing to see the reaction to it. It's almost like a throwback right into that moment again 20 years ago when we were presenting it.
So now also, of course, as we said, it is the Distance Over Time tour, the latest album from the band. And so coming off the Astonishing, which was an even bigger concept than Scenes from Memory was, what was the focus going into Distance Over Time? What was the process like?
Yeah, well, you just said it there. Coming off of, you know, a huge album like Astonishing, you know, and it was, you know, over 2 hours of music, and it was a kind of a situation that we went out, we did this huge world tour, and the album, let's be honest, it kind of divided our fans. It was, they either loved it or they were kind of like trying to sink their teeth into it, but not succeeding. So we knew while we were out on the Astonishing tour that we kind of said, you know what, we need to really get back to our roots. We need to create a more aggressive album and just kind of let it happen. The spontaneity needs to be our friend. And I think the piece that really kind of brought that together was deciding that we were going to go and live together in this house, and then the studio was only maybe 300 feet away from the house, and that's what we did. We kind of like just shacked up and just kept our focus on the music, and we were able to hang out with one another. So ultimately the conversations led back to the music, and I think it really fed and created the kind of album that Distance Over Time became.
And through that bonding came a really cool album. I'm digging Distance Over Time. We are spinning at Wits End over here. It is the latest release here from Distance Over Time. Now, you wrote the lyrics to this one, so what can you tell me about it?
So Wits End, I'd just come across an article that I'd read, and it was basically talking about how couples that experience something that's traumatic, and in this case it was few couples that were talking about trying to overcome a situation where the girlfriend or wife had been raped. So it was a pretty dark subject, and that unfortunately the relationships didn't succeed, or they didn't survive, I should say, due to the psychological turmoil that sets in on somebody that has to, unfortunately, face a situation as such. So I was really kind of moved by it. At the same time, I was thinking, like, why can't people in general, it's easier said than done, but just respect one another and realize that, we're all here just trying to do the best that we can and be accepted for who and what we are. But it stems from much more profound situations than that, right, where someone's obviously ill that commits a crime as such. So I was just really moved, and I thought, wow, like, if that happened to me in my relationship, how would I react? And it was just something that I thought, well, guys, you know what, this music, this song in particular, is kind of directed me in something that I just read about. And they're like, yeah, you go for it, write it. And so that's kind of where I went with this lyric. It's a bit dark. It really is. And but there's also hope in there that we can overcome and survive that, and help that person to see that they're much more than that horrific act dictates.
Unfortunately, it's not letting those things dictate who you are, and I think that's really really an important thing. Yeah. It's again one of those things I took away from it when I was going through it. Now, you had 3 lyrical contributions to Distance Over Time, including the bonus track. So is that kind of how it works for you, is putting, like, okay, you hear the music and you're like, you know what, I think I have something for this, or are you moved by the music? Or does it change?
Well, there's that, yes, there's definitely that part of it. But there's also when we're writing the melodies, and then I'll hear a melody, and all of a sudden words will come into my head. So it can just happen from without of reach. That's kind of like where it happened. I just started singing these words right in my head, and I went, whoa, hang on a second. I think I got something for this. And once again, I said, no, I'm going to take this lyric. And then with Viper King, it was just like, that was a throwback to the Deep Purple times for me, and Zeppelin and that. And I was like, oh, come on. I have a lyric here that I think I can throw down on this, and it'll be a fun lyric. Just something about getting into your favorite car and just letting it wind down the road and cranking your music. But basically, it's either something that comes to me immediately, word-wise, or I just feel it. I just feel a connection to it.
However the inspiration strikes. Of course, the Distance Over Time tour coming to the Louisville Palace Theater. Check that out this Thursday. Tickets on sale. Check out dreamtheater.net. And, of course, Cincinnati Taft Theater, November 6th. Same place, dreamtheater.net. Now, I'd be a bad James Labrie fan if I didn't ask you about where we are with the next solo album.
Right, yeah. At this point, Matt and I just started speaking. Like, we thought over a year and a half ago we were going to start writing material for the follow-up to Impermanent Resonance. Matt's a very busy guy. He lives out in California. I'm up in Canada. And the schedules just didn't dictate us getting together and starting to put the material together. But we did speak a few weeks ago, and so we're hoping that we can start to finally put some music together. So hopefully there'll be something, maybe I'm thinking late 2020.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I won't hold you to it. I just like to have a little hope going forward.
Yeah, don't hold me to it, please. Please don't.
All right. And again, I would be a horrible James Labrie fan if I did not bring up one of my favorite things you've ever done, and I apologize if you disagree with me on it. I'm a huge Winter Rose fan. I love that album. And what amazes me more than anything is the success that both you and Rich have gone on to separately. So I'm kind of curious, did you know back then the spark with this guy that, that he had, that you have? You've gone on to different paths, but still so in the business, still so successful. I'm just kind of curious if you kind of knew that back then.
We knew right away. I mean, what happened was I was in another band, and Rich... I'll tell you a really, really quick story. So he was selling the TV to this other musician that he knew. And this other musician happened to be in this quick little project that I'd done. His name is Brian. And Brian said, "Hey, Rich, check out this song that I just recorded with these new guys that I'm working with." And Rich heard my voice, and he says, "Well, who the hell's that?" And then, long story short, we got together, and Rich started saying, "Hey, here's some songs that I've written." And boom, boom, boom. It just went from there. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, bang, bang. Let's write this and let's write this. What do you think about this idea? And all the songs came together relatively quick. Not to mention we had great, we put together a great bunch of guys musicianship-wise for that band. Randy Cook went on. He's a big session player down in California. He's, worked with guys like Five for Fighting. And he's a phenomenal drummer. And, we were being looked at by Atlantic at the time. They were all gung-ho on signing us. This would have been this would have been like 1990 that they were looking at signing us. And all of a sudden, this situation came about from the Winter Rose. These guys had heard my CD, and then that was Dream Theater. And so I had to consider both, and everybody knows what I decided on. But yeah, it was quite the band. And Rich and I collaborating immediately, we started, the songs just started pumping out of us. And once again, we brought it live as much as we could, and we toured with you must remember Lee Aaron, the metal
absolutely
from the 80s, and she's kind of she was the catalyst that. It kind of sent the CD down to New York to MCA Records at the time, and they presented it to the guys in Dream Theater that had been looking for a singer for over 2 years at the time.
And the rest is history, and it's all worked out really well for everybody. I want you to know I have pressured Sebastian Bach at length over a number of years to give me an original version of him singing Saved by Love, and he will not produce it for me. He taunts me with it, but he will not give it to me.
Yeah.
How was it?
And he did a freaking awesome job on it. The guy's got a great voice. And and you're bringing up Sebastian Bach, because he was singing with Rich before, and then he went on to Skid Row, and then I came in, and it's kind of like Rich was like, okay, I'll bring in the next singer, get him signed, and I'll bring in the next singer. Like, hey, Rich, thanks a lot. But yeah, Rich went on. He's gone on to do great things, and he's still heavily involved in the industry, and he's amazingly talented.
The master of 5.1 mixing. I mean, just insane.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm a big audio guy, and the stuff he puts out is just so good.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, thank you for indulging my Winter Rose fanboy. It is the Distance Over Time tour. I got to ask you, James, what can we expect outside of what we already know?
So it's an evening with, and the production end of it, we've been working with Steve Barrett, our lighting director, since 1995, and he just puts on a phenomenal show visually. And, we have the screens going on with the imagery in the background, but just even the lighting design itself is mesmerizing. And then we have the sound, and that we're working with a new sound man. We call him Ace, and he's just his real name is Michael Baker. But we call him the Ace, and he is Ace at audio. And it's just an amazing evening. The first set is us doing obviously songs from the new album, Distance Over Time, and then various other songs from our catalog. And then the whole second set is Scenes from a Memory in its entirety, from beginning to end. And then we finish off the night with a killer encore. And it's going to be a song that I think everyone's going to really appreciate, the encore song. So, for sure. But it's a great evening, and, you know, the feedback that we're getting from our fans that have been to the shows are saying it's a memorable evening, so it's all worth it.
We'll love it.
Come on out and have a great time with us and celebrate the music, for sure.
Love it. Now, take it from someone who saw Scenes from Memory live the first time, the night before the DVD taping. I was in Connecticut. This is one not to miss. So I'm excited to relive this, and of course the new music from Distance Over Time. James, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. It was great hanging with you, for sure.
All right, now, James, I'm going to have you play DJ right now. I want you to introduce the latest song from Dream Theater.
Hey, everyone. James Labrie from Dream Theater, and this is a track from our latest album, Distance Over Time. This is At Wit's End on Rock 105.